Happy New Year, everyone. Are you ready to make 2025 the best year yet? I know I am. And you know what? I think this deep dive is the perfect way to kick things off.
I agree.
We're taking a look at this transcript called Pasted Text. It's all about celebrating the new year and bringing in tons of positivity, and I'm super curious to see what it has to say.
Well, I've had a chance to look it over, and one thing that jumped out at me is that it doesn't just jump into the whole resolution thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it actually starts by looking back at 2024, like taking stock of everything that happened.
You know, I have to admit, I kind of skimmed over that part. I was so eager to get to the fun stuff.
Sure, I get it.
But yeah, I see what you mean. It's like before you plan a trip, right? You got to know where you're starting from.
Exactly. You've got to understand where you've been so you can figure out where you want to go. And you know what? This source actually suggests some really interesting journaling prompts to help with that.
Oh, yeah, those. I was looking at those earlier.
Yeah.
Like, what were your most memorable moments from last year? That's always fun to think about. But it also asks about the challenges, the tough stuff.
Yeah, and not just like dwelling on those challenges, but actually thinking about what you learned from them. What did those tough times teach you?
That's a good question.
Yeah, what can you take from those experiences and carry with you into the new year?
You know, it's so easy to forget those lessons when you're in the middle of it all.
It really is. And you know, another thing I thought was great.
What's that?
It also encourages you to take time to think about the people who helped you through those challenges. Who deserves a thank you for being there for you?
You know, expressing gratitude for those people, that can be so powerful.
It can. It shifts your focus to the positive, reminds you that you're not alone, you know.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've reflected, we've learned, we've expressed gratitude. Now, can we please get to the celebrations?
Oh, you're ready to party.
I'm thinking themed party, maybe a masquerade ball. I've always wanted to go to one of those.
Well, you're in luck because this pasted text has a whole bunch of ideas for celebrations. And honestly, I was really impressed by the variety. There's something for everyone.
Oh, I know. I was looking at that list earlier. Whether you're a total party animal or someone who prefers to stay in, there's some cool suggestions in there.
Right.
What about for those of us who like a cozy night at home? What did they suggest?
Well, they had this really neat idea for a New Year's resolutions jar.
Ooh, a resolutions jar.
Yeah, so everyone writes down their resolutions, and then you decorate this jar and you put them all in there. Then you open it up next New Year's Eve to see how you did.
Oh, it's like a time capsule. I love that idea.
It's fun, right? And they also talked about playlists.
Oh, yeah, the countdown playlists, putting together all your favorite songs that get you pumped for midnight.
Exactly. They talked about it as curating your own soundtrack for the night.
Love that.
And it really highlights this whole idea of making your celebration your own, you know? Whether it's a big bash or just a quiet night with family or friends, just make it personal, make it special.
Totally. Okay, so we've got the reflection part down. We've got some party ideas brewing. But what about actually achieving those resolutions we're putting in the jar? You know a lot about goal setting, so I'm curious, what did the source have to say about that?
Well, they bring up the SMART goal framework, which is a really great place to start.
Oh yeah, SMART goals. I've heard that term before, but I could definitely use a refresher.
Sure. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Right.
And this is where it gets really helpful because let's say your goal is, okay, I want to get healthier in 2025. That's great. That's a good starting point, but it's also pretty broad, you know?
Yeah, I can see how that could get overwhelming pretty quickly.
Exactly. So a SMART goal would be something like, I will exercise for 30 minutes, 5 days a week for the next 3 months.
Okay.
So you've got your what, your when, how often. It's clear, it's actionable. You can actually track your progress.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I think I might need to get my notepad out for this part.
I always have mine.
What else? Oh, the source talked about gratitude too, right?
Right.
Something about keeping a gratitude journal.
Yes. And gratitude is so powerful, especially when we're talking about goals.
How so?
Well, when you focus on what you're grateful for, it really shifts your mindset from what you're lacking to what you have, you know, abundance. You start seeing possibilities instead of roadblocks.
I like that.
So instead of saying, oh, I wish I had this, you're saying, hey, I'm so grateful for this, and now I can build on it.
That's a great way to put it.
And it doesn't have to be this big formal thing either. Maybe it's just taking a couple of minutes each day to think about 3 things you're grateful for, or writing a quick thank you note to someone who did something nice for you.
Yeah, little things can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
So we've got our SMART goals, our gratitude practice, Anything else we need to make 2025 amazing?
Well, the source also talks about the importance of really prioritizing your well-being,
Okay.
both physically and mentally.
Right, you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. And honestly, I think this is where a lot of New Year's resolutions go wrong. People try to change their whole life all at once,
Yeah.
and then they just burn out.
It's all about setting realistic expectations, making changes that you can actually stick with.
Exactly. So maybe instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym every day, you start with 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Or maybe you try to incorporate a little mindfulness into your routine. Even just 5 minutes of meditation in the morning can make a difference.
And it's okay to ask for help if you need it, right?
Of course.
Therapy, coaching, whatever works for you.
Absolutely. There's no shame in that. In fact, I think it's a sign of strength to recognize when you need support.
I agree. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Reflecting on the past, celebrating the new year, setting smart goals, practicing gratitude, prioritizing well-being. Anything else we need to know before we officially launch ourselves into 2025?
Well, actually, the source does have one more fun little section
Okay.
about New Year's traditions from around the world.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing that. I think it mentioned something about grapes in Spain.
Yes. Apparently in Spain, they eat 12 grapes at midnight, one for each chime of the clock.
Oh, wow.
And each grape represents a month of good luck for the new year.
That sounds fun.
Huh?
And maybe a little messy, depending on how good you are at eating grapes quickly.
Oh, yeah, I can only imagine. And then there's Japan. Have you heard about this one? They ring bells 108 times in temples.
108 times.
Yeah. It's supposed to symbolize getting rid of sins and starting fresh.
Wow. That's a workout for those bells.
Uh-huh.
But it's a beautiful idea, right? Letting go of the past and embracing new beginnings.
Exactly. It's about cleansing and renewal. And then there's Brazil, where they wear all white for peace and prosperity and head to the ocean to jump over 7 waves.
Whoa, jump over 7 waves.
Yeah. And they make a wish with each jump.
I love that. So
Yeah.
visual and connected to nature. It makes me want to book a flight to Brazil right now.
Right. It's such a cool image. And, you know, I think what's so fascinating about all of these traditions is that they offer a glimpse into how different cultures view the new year. It's a reminder that even though we might celebrate in different ways, we're all kind of connected by this desire for hope and renewal and a fresh start.
I love that. You know, this was exactly the kind of deep dive I needed to get me excited for 2025. We've got so many great ideas and insights to work with.
Me too. I'm excited to see what we do with them. And we're just getting started.
That's right. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue unpacking all these awesome ideas and explore even more ways to make 2025 your best year ever.
I can't wait. You know, I'm still thinking about all those New Year's traditions we were just talking about.
Me too.
The grapes and the bells and the ocean waves.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many different ways there are to celebrate, you know, a fresh start.
It really is. And you know what? It made me realize that before this deep dive, my New Year's Eve routine was pretty much just about finding the perfect sparkly outfit and making sure the champagne was chilled. Not a lot of deep thought going on.
Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with a little sparkle and celebration.
True.
But I know what you mean. It's easy to kind of get caught up in the surface level stuff and forget about the real meaning behind it all.
Yeah, and those traditions, even though they come from all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
they all seem to tap into something, you know, universal.
Mm-hmm.
That idea of letting go of the old and embracing the new.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a powerful concept, you know? Even if we don't actually adopt the specific traditions, we can still bring that energy into our own lives.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we take those, you know, inspiring ideas and make them relevant to our everyday lives?
That is the question, isn't it? I think it's about finding ways to incorporate those themes of reflection, renewal, intention into our own routines, you know, little rituals that we create for ourselves.
Okay, so like instead of just writing a resolution in that jar we talked about,
Yeah.
maybe we could create a whole ritual around it.
Yeah.
Like light a candle,
Yeah.
put on some music, really take a moment to connect with what we want to achieve.
Exactly. Or, you know, what if instead of waiting until December 31st to reflect on the whole year,
Yeah.
we build in these little reflection moments throughout the year? Like maybe journaling every Sunday night or taking a walk in nature once a month, just to clear your head and reconnect with yourself.
I like that, little pockets of introspection
Yeah.
sprinkled throughout the year. You know, that actually reminds me of the Japanese bell ringing tradition.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we could find our own symbolic ways to ring out negativity or things we want to let go
Oh,
of.
I love that. Maybe it's writing down those negative thoughts on a piece of paper and then literally ripping it up. Or even having a little burning ceremony where you write down what you want to release and then you burn the paper. Safely, of course.
Love these ideas.
Yeah.
We're taking inspiration from around the world and making it our own. What about the Brazilian tradition? Jumping over the waves and making wishes.
Oh.
How can we bring some of that magic into our daily lives?
Well, it doesn't have to be a literal ocean wave, right? Maybe it's about setting an intention each morning as you're getting out of bed.
Okay.
Or visualizing your goals as you're walking out the door to work. Or even just leaving your house.
Oh, so it's like finding those symbolic thresholds in our everyday life
Exactly.
and using them as opportunities to sort of reset and refocus.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm getting chills. This is good stuff.
I know, right? It's like we're creating this tapestry of intention and positivity and drawing on all this wisdom from around the world.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So we've got our global inspiration. We've talked about how to weave those themes into our routines. But what about the practical stuff?
Yeah.
You know, the SMART goals, the gratitude practice, all those tools we talked about earlier. How do we use those to make our intentions a reality?
Right. And you know what? Those are so essential. And I actually think they work hand in hand with all these more symbolic practices that we're talking about.
Okay, how so?
Well, it's one thing to set an intention, right? But then you need to take concrete steps to make it happen. And that's where the SMART goals come in.
So like the intentions are the fuel and the SMART goals are the roadmap.
Yes, perfect analogy. And then the gratitude practice, that's the secret weapon that keeps you motivated.
Right, because when you're feeling grateful, even the small steps feel meaningful.
Exactly. And even when you hit roadblocks, which you inevitably will, that gratitude helps you reframe those challenges. It helps you see the lessons.
It's like gratitude is the ultimate resilience builder.
I love that. And you know what? This all ties back to what we were saying earlier about personalizing your approach. There's no one right way to do this.
Okay.
It's about finding what resonates with you, what lights you up, what feels good. And then you create a plan that reflects that.
So it's not just about, checking things off a list. It's about designing a life that feels good, a life that's aligned with your values and, what you want to achieve.
Yes, exactly. It's about creating a life that feels meaningful, that feels fulfilling, not just on New Year's Day, but every single day.
Wow. This deep dive has been a total revelation. I feel like we've gone way beyond just setting resolutions. This is like a blueprint for intentional living. This is how we design a year that's aligned with our deepest desires.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And I'm really excited to see what you create this year.
Thank you. I can't wait to hear about your journey too.
Yeah.
But you know what? Before we wrap up this part, I want to leave our listener with something to think about.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about setting intentions for the year ahead. But how do we keep that momentum going all year long?
That's a good question.
How do we avoid falling back into old patterns and habits? Because, it's so easy to let life get in the way.
It is. It really is. And I think it comes back to those little rituals and practices that we were just talking about. Maybe it's setting aside some time each month to revisit your goals. Maybe it's creating a vision board to keep you inspired. Or maybe it's finding an accountability partner.
Right. So it's about finding ways to stay connected to your intentions, to make them part of your daily life, not just something you think about once a year.
Exactly. And I think it's also about being kind to yourself, realizing that you're not going to be perfect. There will be ups and downs. It's about progress, not perfection.
Oh, I like that. Progress, not perfection. That takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And allows for a little more grace, a little more flexibility.
And remember, even those tiny little consistent actions, they can add up to big changes over time.
So true. It's not about making these huge overnight transformations. It's about making those small, sustainable shifts that will ripple out into your life.
Beautifully said. I think we are ready to move on to the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll be exploring some more specific strategies for making those small, consistent actions a part of your everyday routine.
Sounds good to me. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll wrap up this awesome deep dive and send you off into 2025 with all the tools you need to make it your best year yet. All right, I'm ready for those specific strategies you mentioned. We talked about all those big ideas, the global traditions, bringing intention into our lives. Now let's talk about, actually putting it all into practice.
Absolutely. It's all about taking those, big, inspiring ideas and turning them into manageable steps. And remember those SMART goals we were talking about?
Yeah, SMART goals.
That's the perfect place to start.
Okay, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I've got my notepad ready.
Perfect. So let's take an example. You mentioned that you wanted to, prioritize your well-being this year. That's fantastic. But how can we make that, a SMART goal?
Well, instead of just saying, I want to be healthier, maybe I could say, I will cook a healthy dinner at home at least 4 nights a week.
Okay.
That feels specific, it's measurable, it feels achievable.
I love it. You're getting it. And it's definitely relevant to your overall goal of well-being. Now, what about the time-bound piece?
Okay, so maybe I give myself like 3 months to really make it a habit.
Okay, yeah.
So the complete goal would be, I will cook a healthy dinner at home at least 4 nights a week for the next 3 months.
Nailed it. You've got yourself a SMART goal that is actionable, it's motivating. And you know what?
Right.
Once you achieve that goal, you can set a new one. Maybe bump it up to 5 nights a week, or, maybe try incorporating more plant-based meals. It's all about building that momentum.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It feels so much less overwhelming when you break it down like that. It's like all those small steps are creating a staircase that's leading to that bigger vision.
Exactly. It's not about these massive overnight transformations. It's just about that consistent, sustainable change.
Love it. Okay, so we've got our SMART goals. What else can we do to, really make sure we stick to these intentions and create lasting change?
Well, accountability is huge. Having someone to share your goals with, someone to check in with, can make a world of difference.
You mean like a goal buddy?
Yeah, like a goal buddy.
Someone to cheer you on and keep you on track?
Exactly. It could be a friend, a family member, a coach, maybe an online community.
Okay.
But just the act of sharing your goals with someone else makes them feel more real.
That makes sense.
And knowing that someone else is, rooting for you can be really motivating.
For sure. Okay, so we've got our goal buddy. What about those little rituals and practices we were talking about? How can we, actually weave those into our routines?
I'm so glad you asked that. I think it's really about finding what works for you, what feels good to you. Maybe it's creating a vision board with, pictures and images that represent your goals and putting it somewhere you can see it every day.
Okay.
Or maybe it's starting each morning with a gratitude practice, just taking a few moments to really appreciate all the good things in your life.
I love a good gratitude practice. It can be so grounding, especially when things get, crazy and stressful.
It really can. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe you just keep a gratitude journal next to your bed and jot down a few things before you go to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Or, maybe you incorporate a little gratitude ritual into your morning. Light a candle, say a little thank you for all the good things in your life.
I'm feeling calmer already.
Right.
It's like we're building this toolbox filled with like all these amazing tools and strategies for intentional living.
Yes. It's like we're giving ourselves everything we need to make this year amazing.
That's right. And we can always add more tools to the toolbox as we go along.
Absolutely. It's a journey. It's a continuous journey of learning and growth. And speaking of journeys, this deep dive has been incredible.
It really has.
We've covered so much. The traditions, the goals, the gratitude practices. I feel so energized and excited to step into this new year with all this, intention and purpose.
Me too. Me too. And, it's been such a pleasure exploring all of these ideas with you. And I want to say to our listener out there, thank you so much for joining us on this journey. It's been so fun to, explore these ideas together.
The feeling is mutual. And you know what? I want to leave everyone with one final thought. Remember, this is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you take these insights and make them your own. Experiment, play around, have fun. There's no right or wrong way to design a year that lights you up.
That's such a good reminder. It's not about following some strict set of rules. It's about finding what works for you, creating a year that feels authentic to you and all the amazing things that you want to create. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.